Hey there, Wits and Weights family. Philip here with a quick bonus episode because I need your help to shape the future of the podcast. Now that we've kicked off 2025, I want to make sure Wits and Weights keeps delivering the kind of content you love, whether it's strategies for building muscle, breaking down nutrition science, or the deep dives into mindset that help you just crush your goals for the year. Now, to do that, I've put together a Wits and Weights 2025 podcast listener survey. It's quick, it's easy. Your feedback is incredibly valuable. And I want to know what you enjoy. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? How can I make the show even better for you? And then to show my appreciation, 10 lucky participants are going to win a free month of access to Wits and Weights Physique University. And that means all of the things you get in there. If you were a paying member, you'll get right from day one a custom nutrition plan, personalized workout programs, live coaching calls, onboarding, courses, community, everything for free for 30 days. Cancel anytime. Of course, as always, no pressure. So I encourage you to take it. I'm going to include a link to the survey in the show notes. But what's cool is I've already got a number, probably at least a dozen results or responses after opening the survey just a few days ago and seeing some really interesting feedback. And so I wanted to share some of that today just as a little teaser. Eventually, I'm going to do an episode of the whole breakdown of the results, which I think will be interesting. And more importantly, like, how is it going to affect what you learn here? And I want to make sure that I shared a taste of that first so that you, if you haven't done the survey yet, you can go do it and say, you know what, Philip didn't mention this. I want to mention that. So just a few things. First of all, people talked about some things that they want more or less of. And there are a couple interesting ideas. One is advocating for a longer solo episode instead of the two shorter episodes. So I have 3 episodes a week. I have a kind of a deep dive on Monday, but they're not always that long. Sometimes they're 20, 30 minutes. I have an engineering related kind of framework episode on Wednesday, which tends to be on the shorter end. And then I have the interview on Friday, and that's more like an hour long, although they might get a little bit shorter this year. So, but then someone else said, well, I like one long and one short podcast per week. I don't know if they meant total or in addition to the guest episode. So I'm really thinking on that. If you have a strong opinion on that, definitely take the survey and let me know. Now, as far as topics that you want more of, I'm going to throw some of these out in case this resonates with you, and I'm probably going to make episodes on some of these. Training and nutrition over 60. Right? The reality of aging on lifting. I've talked about that here and there. I had an episode called Over 50. Oh, I forget what it was called, but it was like training for over 50 not long ago. So if you're newer to the podcast and you take the survey and you want to see a topic, I would say also go to my website, witsandweights.com, click podcast, and you can search for older episodes just in case we already covered it. Another one was more on older women's strength training, gaining muscle, but potentially looking fat and looking bulky. So that's good. I can address that. Examples of how things worked or didn't work from people or yourself. I'm thinking of doing more, I don't want to say case studies, but it'll be in the format of my normal podcast episode, but maybe breaking down from an example of somebody's real training program or nutrition, whether it's my clients, myself, or what. I've had clients on. I know you like some of those episodes as well. But I want to make sure it really hits hard on a topic and a problem that you want to learn about. Vacation strategies, how to keep consistent when not at home, building phases for women. Somebody would love to hear from a female who's completed a successful build and cut. Running and health, lifting for longevity, bodybuilder and bikini models, how to use my hunger guide. Actually, I think I'm going to do an episode on that very soon. So those are just a sample of topics people want more of. And then I asked people, what did you do as a result of the podcast so far? And we have a variety of things. Like, I started tracking. I eat a lot more protein. I eat more carbs. I'm not fasting anymore. I know how to structure my year now to cut in bulk. I know how to modify my diet and training and track more. Adding more carbs back in, increasing steps rather than worrying too much about cardio and focusing on lifting instead. And the list goes on. There's a lot about like eating more carbs. I love that. More carbs, more fiber, feeling better. And then what's missing from the podcast? Just to brag a little, there were a bunch that said nothing, which I appreciate that. You said, oh, nothing's missing. I love it. Okay, great. And there were others that gave me an answer on things they'd like to see more of. Somebody said maybe a co-host. I don't see that in the cards at all. I have done some co-hosted episodes. I'm going to do something interesting this year where Some of the guests that I have, we're going to do a half and half episode and have half of it on each other's podcast. So effectively we're like interviewing each other and then we'll have it on the other podcast. That might be cool, but it's not really a co-host per se, but it'll be more in that format instead of just one-sided. Someone said, this is the longest podcast that I listen to. It focuses more on building muscle and less on your stage in life. This is fine with me. So that's interesting. I don't know if there's something I should get out of that in terms of, well, if it doesn't focus on your stage in life, what does that mean? Maybe they mean like it's not just for over 50 or just for over 40, which I try to make it a little more universal. And then when I work with clients, I generally work with men and women in their 30s, 40s, and beyond. But I don't like, pigeonholing too much because some of these problems can affect people of all ages. Another thing somebody wants to see is depth of experience. Now, I don't know if they mean me and they feel like I'm not experienced, but they said doctors, lifting coaches, gym owners, personal experience with Barbell Logic, Nikki Sims. Oh, actually, Nikki Sims is going to be on the podcast, guys, from Barbell Logic. So we're going to be recording not too long from now. And then they said other interests, economics, poker, philosophy, mindfulness. I don't know if I'm going to do that. A lot of people said what they liked about the show is the lack of banter and tangential fluff. And I don't have a co-host, so I don't have like this back and forth. I do talk a little bit about me and my clients and my family and all that, but I try to keep it more on topic. And I think a lot of you like that. But it's good to know that you might be interested in what goes on in my brain and kind of other things that I'm interested in as we go along. So I'll keep that in mind. Someone said aspects of family life or travel, dynamics that pop up with kids, you're sick, etc. And I agree. There's specific problems I try to cover. What I found is if I go too narrow, like if I talk about kids, the listening drops way off because not everybody has kids or is interested. And that's fine if the people that really need to hear it do listen to it. But I also have to be careful that it resonates with the overall audience as well. Let's see. I don't want Wits and Weights to incorporate everything. I listen to it because of what Philip specializes in. Cool. Appreciate that. And then maybe a lifting Q&A. This person was talking about they like how Mind Pump answers all these Q&As related to lifting. I do tend to talk a lot more about nutrition, but I'll make sure to include more lifting related episodes as well. And then what do people like the most? And again, this is not to brag. It's more of like, what should I lean into? And there are a couple surprises here to me, to be honest. So it comes across as completely honest, not trying to sell me things all the time. Good. I do try to sell you things sometimes. I get it, which you all know this is a business. And when I do talk about coaching, it is usually in the context of the topic, right? Like kind of tying those together. And we don't have sponsors or anything like that. Someone said it's not a bunch of rambling and repetition. Information comes from a source I know I can trust. More depth, less chatter. Now, I really love this comment. I want to thank the person who submitted this. Production value. For sure, Wits and Weights is the best produced, planned, easiest to follow, hosted, best agenda, tight, and on topic. That is a huge standard to live up to. All I can say is thank you. I'm not gonna turn down the compliment. I have my own insecurities and doubts and always want to grow, but I appreciate that is what it is for you because that is what I strive to do. So I love that. Secondary is always the positive, solution-oriented engineering approach to topics that you take, which is lacking from other health and lifting podcasts. Great. The engineering thing, let me tell you, I'm always worried I'm going to lose people, not because I think you guys aren't intelligent. It's more of the way I think about things sometimes a little quirky or offbeat, or it doesn't make sense when it comes out of my mouth to others, but then maybe it does. So if something's completely confusing, just send me a message and let me know. reach out to me on Instagram at Wits and Weights, and there's multiple other ways to contact me in the show notes. Someone said there's a lot of variety and options to communicate. The Facebook group plus podcast is an amazing combo. So yeah, if you're not aware of the Facebook group or in it, definitely join. The link's in the show notes to that. That's free, but it's really cool because a lot of people listen are also there. And so you can chat with folks who think in that way, that very open, flexible, and an engineering, data-driven way. Let's see. Info is not generalized. There's always one way or the other, depending on your needs. Yeah, for sure. I try to make sure you know that things need to be personalized and there's not a one-size-fits-all. I like Philip's personality. He's fun, but also shares the science without being boring. Okay, good to know. No hype BS. I like the honest and sincere tone, no nonsense, research-based material. Most of all, I know that your podcasts are like essays. Well, that's pretty cool. We're trying to teach our daughters to write essays, actually. I like that there's little tangential waste of time and I can actually listen to it within a commute, in the car, or on a walk. Okay, cool. And then the last part, I hope this episode isn't too long for you guys. What would you miss the most if the podcast went away tomorrow? Tear emoji. Now, I wrote the question in a very emotional way. If you take the survey, you'll see what I mean. So here's what some people said, and this really hits me at the heart, and this is why I'm grateful to all of you, and I'm on the verge of tears when I read this stuff because it's just really validating what we do here, and I'm glad that it resonates with folks. You said, honest appreciation to nutrition and weights, your practical approach, positive energy, insight, your energy and kind heart, and if I lost the podcast, it would be the loss of a podcast that was a sincere and empowering vehicle. The honesty thing right there is probably the most important thing to me, besides the positive energy. I try to be positive for sure in everything I do, but honesty is important. And by honesty, to me, that's not just, obviously it's telling the truth and having integrity, but it's not sugarcoating. It's trying to be nuanced and acknowledge what I know but also don't know, and then allow my thoughts and opinions to evolve as I learn and grow along with you. And I think you guys know, I've been a coach for about 5 years now. I don't hang my hat on credentials or longevity. Before that, I was an engineer for 20 years. So very different field. And yet on the podcast, I talk about nutrition and lifting. But I've learned and I've stood on the shoulders of so many giants in this field. And I love absorbing the information and becoming self-educated in that respect. And then I've had the chance of working with hundreds of clients now, which has been the best education of all, and hearing from you listeners. So the honesty, I hope, comes through in, I'm not like a 22-year-old influencer just trying to constantly sell you stuff. That's not the thing. This is very much a passion of mine, first and foremost. It is still a side hustle, again, to be honest about it. And yet I give my all. And I hope you got that. So I won't drag this on anymore, but the podcast listener survey for 2025 is open until the end of January. So you still have a few weeks left, but don't wait. Click the link in the show notes or just click the link in the show notes. I don't have the link is a Google link. It's complicated. Click the link in the show notes. Your feedback, it doesn't just shape the podcast. I think it strengthens our community because it helps me feel where the threads are connected between all of us. We're all part of this journey together. We're all trying to do the right thing in the right way for us and support each other. So I can't wait to hear from you. I really hope you take the survey, whether you want to win the prize or not. I actually ask you a question about whether you want to opt in or not for the raffle, for the free access to Wits of Weights Physique University. So don't feel pressured on that. And that's it, right? So I will see you next time. Please take the survey. The link's in the show notes. Can't wait to hear from you. And I will see you next time.